If there is one thing we could say about humanity, is that we love telling the stories. It's as true today as it was centuries ago. I love the books, poems, paintings, and other works, both contemporary and from the past eras, are visible and tangible proofs of that. However, there is one medium that's older than pages and canvases, one that still exists and it's doing very well, but for some reason changed and lost its original purpose. And I think it's a shame, at least to some extent. I'm, of course, talking about ballads and other stories told in a singing manner. So prepare your favorite tea, sit comfortably, and let's talk about it. But first, if you're new here, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Oak, and on this channel I talk about art and humanity from a perspective of a writer, crafter, and history lover. If you like this video, consider giving it a like and subscribing to my Broke Oak studio. First, let's talk about what even is ballad. I'm sure most, if not all, people listen to music. It makes life more interesting, creates specific atmosphere if needed, and unlocks memories in ways nothing else does. But how we listen to music differs. Some people focus on the beat, others on instruments, and some, me included, puts lyrics first. There is no one poorly written song on my playlist. All of them are either thoughts artists want to share with the world or stories that, in a way, resemble literary prose. I especially love those last ones, because they're nothing else than ye old ballads, just repackaged. And just so we're on the same page, as ballad as a term seems to have multiple meanings, ballad, as we will be talking in this video, is a form of a song or a poem that tells a story. That's it. That's all it is to it. What makes ballads different from other songs is the fact that they are written like stories. They tell the stories, literally. Pop music and genres relying on sounds are cool, and I can see how people can have fun listening and vibing to them. Occasionally I do too. But nothing makes me so happy like an audiobook in the musical form. The concept of combining a story and nice sounds just does something to my brain. And, if you think about it, centuries ago most songs worked like that. Old legends, folk stories, love poems, those were all ballads. Stories about fae and monsters, kings and heroes, all sung on the main square or in the tavern, accessible for everyone who wanted to listen. The oldest recorded ballad, according to Google, comes from 13th century England, but we all know that songs telling stories existed much, much earlier in many parts of the globe. The only reason we don't hear about them is that they were not wrote down. And honestly, if you know of any ballad-like songs from your culture, please share them in the comments. I found out that researching anything in that regard was taking me in all the wrong directions. It could be because I was using wrong keywords when searching, but we don't know what we don't know, so I would love to learn something from you all. Now, I would like to take a few minutes to prove that ballads are amazing. So, if you're ballad skeptic, give me a moment to try to persuade you. Because ballads may be not popular, but they have a lot of strengths. First and foremost, they stimulate the imagination. I love ballads because they help you imagine the world, either one from the past or fantastical one, where all stories are shared via performances and songs. It creates that feeling of discovering more, almost like following the main story in the game or reading a wiki of a specific series. When I hear The Willow Maid by Erutan, I imagine a tavern in a town close to the forest. A singer, beautiful to almost non-human level, her braids decorated with leaves, singing to common folk, trying to warn them, her ethereal voice. The King by Rosendale takes me to an inn full of tired subjects of the kingdom torn by internal conflicts. A place where the portrait of a monarch hangs on the wall, but it's only due to a decree and not the people's love and admiration. Each song is like a book. The lyrics are the story arc, and your imaginations adds the rest. Another reason why ballads are amazing? They help us imagine the past. Rhymes, songs, and poems were for the folk of the past what news, radio, and books are for us now. People would sing to share wisdom, teach each other proper for the time, behaviors, or make work more enjoyable. When I think about folk songs, I imagine a feasting crowd on a fair, or communities gathering together to spin threads, sew, or wash clothes. Performers and regular people spreading all those stories, helping legends take their shape, gods transform, and myths gain colors. And last but not least, they record stories. Because ballads are written as stories, there is not much problem with their interpretation, which makes them an amazing time capsules for the future to discover and analyze. Take the Greensleeves, for example. Recently, artists and historians were able to sew a reconstruction of a garment described in the song and show off some other historical fun facts while at it. I will link the video in my references below because it's a rather amusing watch. Wholeheartedly recommend. And who knows, maybe modern ballads will one day get analyzed too. I can totally see 6 pills or I sent my therapist to therapy being used as research materials, as depressive as it would be. And, as it is with most of the things, what works in real life can also be handy in our creations. No matter if you're a musician trying to create your brand, GM preparing a campaign, or a writer, ballads can be extremely useful for you. So, let's talk about ballads as storytelling device. Imagine a quest revolving around a song with one mysterious line. Players or characters would have to interpret it correctly to be able to defeat the enemy or finish some other kind of story arc. Or there could be a character introduction done first in the form of a ballad. Because a narrative song can tell us so much about the world, it's a great way to inform the reader, or player, about it, without boring them with long paragraphs of over-detailed descriptions. For example, Intro to Avatar: The Last Airbender could be a ballad, if only Katara decided to sing it. I did similar thing in my story of Uvitra. More information soon. Join my Patreon or Discord if you want to be able to see it. Because I didn't want to shoehorn a big lore dump into the prologue, I wrote a poem to work as a song in the universe, enabling me to focus on the character dynamic for most of the chapter. So if you'd like to write some ballads for your narrative creations, here are instructions how to do this professionally. And less professionally. Assuming you'd like to write a piece as it was done throughout the history, you would need to write it as ABCB quatrain, which means that second and fourth lines would need to rhyme. From what I've seen, ABAB form was also mentioned as one of the options, which means first and third lines would also need to rhyme, but I guess it's less popular. I didn't see it much, maybe once. Another important thing to remember is to keep the same number of syllables in paired lines. Both sets can have different number from each other, but if your second line has 8 syllables, fourth one should have the same amount. According to this lovely page I found, credits below, ballads should focus on most important elements of the story, not be emotional and just focus on the events, even if that means skipping a lot of time in between. I'm starting to think ballads are the most ADHD-friendly way to learn history. If you don't know what I'm referring to, watch my previous video about history and culture in storytelling. You can find a link in the upper right corner of the screen or at the end of video description. And okay, it's all fun and dandy, but what if you don't care about period accuracy? Well, then just write however you want. As long as your song/poem tells a story in a narrative kind of way, it still can be considered a ballad. As you were able to saw earlier, I wrote my ballad with AABB rhymes and matched the syllables to the way it would be sung, so it's definitely not a period-accurate piece. But it tells a story, and that's what matters. Ballads have the power to evoke stories and emotions. When I hear them, I can feel that faint feeling of longing, as if my heart knew something long ago and forgot it. It's the same feeling I have whenever I see people performing old rituals or old ways of singing. Also something that becomes less and less popular. And my next videos will be about that topic, so if you're interested, hit the bell to not miss it. How do you listen to music? Do you know any fun historical or contemporary ballads? Share them in the comments below. This is all for today. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day. Bye bye!